Welcome to week 10. We're halfway through our summer session. And right on cue, we have colossal kohlrabi. And if you are not familiar with them, of course, Mimi and I will just cut them up into sticks and eat them and they'll be gone in no time. But if you're thinking, maybe I better start putting a few things forward for some meals when it gets busy, when the kids start school in earnest, whatever shape that takes this year, you can use kohlrabi and onions and potatoes and some of the celery leaves, even some of the zucchini, and make a soup base, and then you can use rice to make it creamy rather than using dairy. So we'll explore that this week along with some other options. See you in the kitchen. Well, the good news is Mimi and I are out of our self-quarantine and we're back together again in a tight little community. And so we did a whole bunch of prep, kind of like a real cooking show, which we are not, but we thought it would make filming for Ken much easier and editing. So this week we have two things going. We're going to teach you how to make our baked gyoza or wontons, and that's Mimi's wheelhouse. And then something we've wanted to do for years is make a Bonito broth. It's a Japanese fermented dried fish that imparts just a really delicate fish flavor to broth. And we use some pork stock I had in the freezer.
But use chicken stock or your vegetable stock.
Yep. And it's an infused broth with flavor, and we'll show you that process. It's a little different than a regular soup, and it's kind of nice for a hot summer day. So I think what I will do is back up and let Mimi take over for teaching you how to make gyoza. This is a really fun kid project.
Oh, totally perfect to help you have your kids help you with. So this week's basket, we had gorgeous purple cauliflower, and we've got, of course, stunning broccoli. And what I did was I even went to the neighbor's house because we wanted an extra carrot, but you might have one already in your refrigerator. And we're going to put together two different types of wonton stuff that we're going to bake. And so I've got everything already chopped, but couple things I wanted to show you again is that when you get your broccoli and you've got this huge stem, this stem is but for many people their most favorite part to eat. So if you just go under there and you can actually peel off, that one's not doing it so much, you can actually peel off a little, it'll come off in strings like that. It'll just, and you can, this way you're using your, there we go. You can see how it'll just peel right off. And that way you can use the whole thing. There's no reason to give up that gorgeous stem. So that's what I did with our little broccoli here. And then again, remember that our greens, this is a beet green, and then there's also, I have a chard green. And remember, we're going to just take out, you can cut this out, or I'm just going to rip it out. Just as a reminder, this is like when we do our braise. Same darn thing. And I'm leaving the stems over here because I'll put that in a soup or a stock or an omelet tomorrow morning. And then you just roll this up, and then you just do this really fine ribbon cut, or we call a chiffonade. And you really want to cut it fine, again, for mouth feel. Nobody likes a great big giant slimy piece of something. So this will give it that wonderful delicate mouth feel, and then that's what that is. So what we can do here now is we have just plain up chopped up onion. So I'm going to put some in one bowl. And again, you can just make one or neither, or however. Some in another bowl because we're making two different flavors. This one is going to be cauliflower, the purple cauliflower, that gorgeous color. This is the zucchini that we've grated and then we've left. And then I squeezed out, look how much liquid came out of that. So the reason why we're doing this is you don't want that liquid inside your wonton because it's going to make the whole thing really watery. So hence why we do that. And then you just squeeze it out a little bit, and I'll throw some of that in there tomorrow morning or later today. Here we go again with some leftovers to be able to use up. And then in this one, we're going to do a broccoli. And we're going to do some greens. And of course we have to have some garlic. And then for fun, I'm going to put some carrots in this one. And we'll put a little more greens. And then from here now, we can go ahead and, Terry, I need the eggs, darling. Here I come. And then we can start mixing this up.
It's really hot today. We're doing eggs the last minute.
Yes. You do not want to leave your eggs out. Not in this kind of heat. And so here we go. You can see we have a couple different kinds of fillings.
Yum.
And then we're just going to put in...
Did you put some salt in there, Mimi? Or
No, we use some soy though.
Okay.
A little soy.
I'll get you some.
I'm just going to dump it in. You can have fun with dips with this. Just some hoisin sauce, some oyster sauce if you like wasabi. Just some good old soy sauce or tamari. There's just lots of fun dips you can pull together with this.
And we'll have some suggestions as the website gets posted.
Yes. And then I'm just going to mix it all in. I think I should do another egg. And then...
And one thing's for sure, if you have leftovers of this, that you probably will, then put it in an omelet. Cook it up and use it as an omelet filling.
Oh, I can smell the soy sauce. Okay, so we are going to add another egg. This is a binder. The egg is the binder that's going to hold the filling together because we're not using flour or anything. And you're basically, this is it. Now, we didn't have wontons, but we had egg roll wrappers. So we thought, okay, that works. All we have to do is cut them up.
See, so we just cut them in fourths and you end up with the same size thing. Just make sure you have defrosted them first. Here you go, Mimi, I'll give you.
There we go.
And they do dry out, so keep them, just work them in small sections.
Now, this is a really fun little gadget because this is what's going to get the kids really rocking and rolling on this. These come in a lot of sizes, but so find the size that works for you. Even I've seen these in all kitchen stores. They're usually only a couple of dollars. So let's just play, baby girl. So you have put the wrapper.
It works better if they're round, but we're going to make do with the triangles.
Yep. Again, improvise with what you've got. So which flavor are you doing for us?
I did zucchini.
Okay, let's just do a few of the zucchini.
And Mimi and I bake these. Mimi taught us to do this about 5 years ago. It's the coolest thing.
And then you need to, this is just a little bowl of water.
This one's stuck together. We'll just do it.
So I'm just dampening the edges a little bit. That's what's going to help the wonton stick to itself.
And don't overfill it.
Yeah, because it'll gush out all over everywhere. And then you have these wonderful little, ta-da! They can come out however you want. You can stand them up like that or leave them flat.
Terry's still getting the hang of it.
Don't really mess up.
Even kids can do this, see?
This is what's fun for kids. Uh-oh. For everybody. Sometimes they get a little sticky, so what? You might have a couple that you can't use. Or if they break up, sometimes I'll just put them in a fry pan and brush them with some oil and have a little snack.
Normally, Mimi and I go to Waijamaya's and spend like 3 hours in the grocery store, and we bring home all these treasures.
Yep.
But we're having to rely on our lovely local grocery store.
Yeah.
We are grateful.
Believe me, when COVID gives us a break, we will be shopping.
Other people go to the mall.
We go grocery shopping.
So what we'll do is we're gonna make a baking tray of them. And Mimi will tell you her secret for being able to bake them and not fry them. What do you do, Mimi?
We've got a bowl of just oil. This is just a grapeseed oil, but you can use a plain oil, your corn oil, vegetable oil, or whatever. And what we're going to do is we're going to just put our fingers in there, and we're going to just get your fingers wet, and you're just going to rub this just real quick like that. Make sure you get it nice, and don't be scared of using your oil. And what that does is there's your deep fryer. So that's all it is. And then you bake them. And then it's great then to serve with some different dips, or just to snack on in a big bowl with some cheese grated or something. You can do so many fun things with this.
And we've picked strictly an Asian theme today.
Yeah. I get carried away and think of all kinds of funnies.
And then when we're done making the baked version of these, we're going to make wonton version, which is more the dumpling type, and that's going to go in our soup that we're going to show you what we're making, and that's in the house. We'll go in there later.
Yeah. See? Okay, so here's our batch of baked wontons, and they just came out of the oven, and we did flip them halfway through so their little bottoms could get nice and toasty.
We love sharing them with you on a normal summer, but this time the three of us are going to eat them all.
We'll think of you.
Next summer we'll make them for you.
These you can have fun with a lot of different types of dips. So this one is just rice vinegar with some honey, and just because it's me, I did put some cilantro on top. This one is a rice vinegar with some chili oil put in it. So if you like it to be kicked up a little bit,
It's the Asian chili oil.
it's Asian chili oil. But you can always just have a little bit of this sprinkled on.
Sesame seed oil.
Sesame seed oil, and of course soy sauce or tamari to put in a bowl. You could do that. For dipping, if you like wasabi, you can do that.
And
the famous,
so about 2 years ago we had a glut of plums on the farm. It was glorious. And I finally just cooked some up with onions and garlic, ginger, just kind of like an applesauce, only a savory one. And we call it hoisin sauce in our house. And this is really nummy. It's kind of thick, like a barbecue sauce. You cook it down. There's a recipe for it on the website if you're at all interested. But that's one of my favorite dips. So,
And
pretty
then-
good snack food.
great snack food, and again, use what's in your refrigerator. And you can always even add a leftover piece of chicken or something into your wontons or sprinkled on top. So just have some fun with this.
Good. We'll see you in the kitchen and we'll talk about the soup we're making. So welcome to the kitchen. So we're going to make a soup. It's a lovely light soup. We used a homemade pork broth. All the fat was gone out of it, roasted. So you can if you could show them the dark color. And in that, we brought that to a boil. And then we took about a quarter cup of Bonito flakes. These are wonderful dried fermented Japanese fish cooking accoutrement, if you will. And I encourage you to go down to one of the Waijimaya or someplace and get some. It lasts a long time, as long as you keep it airtight. So we put about a quarter cup in there after it had boiled, and we turned it off, and we put one strip of nori in there. And we put 2 heads of garlic, 2 cloves of garlic, and some onion from the farm, and then some ginger. And I just put a chunk in like that. Now, this kind of messy looking stuff is what brewed in that simmered stock. So we brought everything to a boil, turned it down to simmer, put everything in, turned it off, and just left it for about 15 minutes. Mimi and I came back, we tasted it because it was homemade stock. It was very light in salt. So we splashed a little bit more soy sauce in there, probably a capful, maybe a capful and a half. And then all of a sudden, all the flavor came forward. So don't be afraid to try that. That's why on recipes you don't see a half a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of soy sauce. You don't know in a soup what you're starting with in terms of stock. So, and I knew mine was light on salt. If you don't have homemade stock and you're using grocery store stock, remember those are more heavily salted. So you probably won't have to use as much soy sauce, maybe just a little bit to bring up the umami. So what I want to show you is we scooped it out with this strainer. This strainer is really handy in my kitchen. You can see it's a really fine mesh. And I'm just going to dump it in the sink like that. We're going to bring this up to a boil. And Mimi and I were very busy doing mise en place. So we have celery from the farm this week with a nice thin oblique angle, and a few carrots left over from last week. So what we're going to do is bring this to a boil. Should come up in just a minute. And we will cook these first, and then I'm going to scoop those out after a couple of minutes and put them on the tray. And then I think we will I had a little bit of cabbage slaw from last week that had just been in a little lime juice and salt. It's kind of wilted. I don't want to eat it fresh, but it's perfectly fine for going in a soup. This is the one I talk about all the time. Recipe's up on the site. And then we'll put that in for a minute or two, and then we'll add some of my Napa cabbage out of the garden. And if you've got some greens, we're using chard greens. We raided from one of our neighbor's garden.
Beet
But
greens.
if you've got beet greens, it's the same thing, left over from when we had beets, or any other delicate green like that. And then we took the kohlrabi and we turned it into a really light pickle. I just brought some some rice vinegar to boil, turned it off, added a little bit of salt and sugar, tasted it. I didn't want it to be too sweet. Julienne the kohlrabi and put a purple onion in there with a little bit of cilantro. And so we will plate that onto the bowl of soup once we've got everything else dished up. That's not going to cook in the broth. Good. Did I forget anything, Mimi?
Nope, I think you got it all.
Okay, here it goes. It's boiling. And so I'm going to take the celery. It's kind of like a hot pot, if you've ever done that, where you start to infuse the broth with all kinds of vegetable flavors. Irish's house. And the flavor in the stock just gets richer as you go along. And then the very last thing we're going to cook in the stock are our wontons, filled with the same filling that Mimi put in the baked gyoza or baked wontons. So if you start counting out how many vegetables you've got in this bowl of soup, it's pretty astounding if you count that which is in the wonton as well. So we're going to let this boil for a minute. We'll come back in a minute and I'll show you how I'll take it out. So this is one of those meals you want to make sure you have everything ready when you start. So we had already cooked the broth and tasted it so that it felt good to our palate, and we just tasted it again. We gave just another 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. So we're going to take this out because we don't want to overcook them. So it's not like a traditional soup where you just kind of throw everything in there. We're going to scoop it out like so. And next goes, I think we'll use the cabbage slaw from last week to get that just barely cooked, and then the Napa cabbage I had. But if you have some cabbage hiding, just regular traditional cabbage, shave it nice and thin. This is a perfect place for it to disappear. And we'll bring that up to just a quick simmer and cook that. We don't want to overcook it. We're just taking a little crunch off of it. We'll be back in a minute. So this has been cooking for about a minute and 30 seconds, minute and 20 seconds, and we still want it to have some tooth. We don't want it to be raw, but you can see it's not cooked complete limp. And the reason I'm keeping these all separate is that when we go to plate out the bowl, we want people to be able to choose, or if your mom or dad fixing dinner, you just put it in the bowl. This is a great supper if you've got some leftover chicken hiding in the back of the fridge. And so now we're going to take the delicate greens and just give them probably 30 seconds, don't you think, Mimi?
Oh yeah.
At the most. And what's fun is, as you go along, see the red is coming out in the stock here from these greens. It's infusing more and more flavor in the stock that was already flavorful. Good, we're going to take that out. Oh, I'm going to give it a few more seconds. I don't want it to taste raw. I just don't want it to be slimy. Ken wanted me to show you how to fold it up so it's more like a wonton. So we've got these little triangles, and I put a little water there, and we just squeeze them like that. I think they'll sit in the soup bowl a little more, nest in the soup bowl. And so we've got boiling water. Cook those up. I imagine a few will fall apart. It won't be the end of the world. I am going to turn it down just a little bit because I don't want to boil and tear these apart, so we'll just simmer them gently. But you can see them cooking in the broth, so more flavors getting infused into that broth. And then pretty soon what we're going to do is assemble those in a bowl, and I've got them over here preheating. I poured some boiling water into our soup bowls. Like so. Ken was saying, well, this is like hot pot. And I said, yep, except you assemble it in the kitchen. But if you've got one of those nifty things that goes on your dining room table, this would be a fun dinner to do at the dining room table. So what we have here left is cilantro, and we're going to use that raw on top of the soup.
Okay, turn out the way you want.
We'll pour the hot broth over them, and I think they'll be perfect. So we'll cook these just under about 10 minutes and on a kind of a simmer, a little higher than simmer. Just under a boil. Do I have stuff on my face?
No.
So the wontons have been cooking for about 6 minutes, and we'll put 3 in each bowl, along with some of this very rich broth. And then we'll keep doing that. We'll take a little bit of the fresh pickled turnip, a little bit of cilantro, and some sesame seeds. And you've got dinner, or lunch, or something yummy, but a whole lot of vegetables to celebrate from the farm. Enjoy! We are so glad to be back together again. We've missed that, and we miss all of you so very much. So,
Be kind to your neighbor, and we're going to enjoy.
have a great week, everyone. Bye.